The thing about the Varric Compact is that they genuinely believed they had us. I was standing on the upper promenade of Seawall Thyron when their lead ship broke atmosphere. A broad-hulled contract cruiser, Iridian Registry, matte gray with the yellow stripe insignia of a licensed enforcement fleet. Behind it came 11 more, staggered in a standard debt recovery formation. My people have cataloged enough alien shipping configurations over the past 40,000 years. I recognized the pattern before their comm officer sent the first hail. This was not an invasion. This was a bill collection. I am the chief construction engineer of Thyron Coastal Array, which is to say I oversee 240 kilometers of integrated megastructure run along Earth's northern continental shelf, tidal generation spines, atmospheric processors, deep stack fabrication warrens, and the 9 orbital tethers that feed the low-ring platforms overhead. I have spent 31 years maintaining something that took humanity 60,000 years to build up to the point where a single shift of 300 engineers could run it without incident. I say this not to boast. I say it. So you understand the scale of what the Varric Compact's representative was looking at when he stepped off that ship, south down the coastline, and went quiet for a very long time. His name, rendered in a form my translator could handle, was something close to Advocate Execure Marin. He was tall, narrow-shouldered, with a gray-green exoskeletal structure across his upper torso that might have been ceremonial armor or simply the fashion of his profession. He carried a document case. They always carry a document case. I met him on the landing apron alone. 12 warships in the sky, and I walked out to meet their representative alone, because that is how we do it now, and because the Thyron defense grid had finished its target lock sequencing 11 minutes before his shuttle touched down. Being alone was not a statement of vulnerability. It was a statement of confidence that required no elaboration. "Engineer Selva Dre," I said, "welcome to Thyron." "I'm told you have paperwork." Marin opened his document case. He presented, with the careful gravity of someone who had crossed a very long distance to deliver very important news, certified copy of the Varric Compact's foundational claim. It was, explained, a matter of intellectual origin. 120,000 years ago, a party operating under the forerunner authority of what would become the Compact's principal client, civilization had acquired. He used the word acquired. A sequence of genetic base code from a world cataloged as Class 7 biosphere, inhabited, stellar. The acquisition had been unauthorized by the standards of later galactic law, he admitted, but the legal frameworks of the time had not prohibited it outright. And the relevant statutes of limitation under Compact Charter had been told by virtue of the client's formal claim being filed continuously across the intervening millennia. The Class 7 biosphere, he told me, was Earth. I let him finish. He was thorough. I will give him that. When he was done, I said, "You've been filing that claim continuously for 120,000 years. In unbroken legal succession," he said, and I could hear the pride in it. Generations of Compact clerks, dutifully renewing a piece of paper that said they owned something. It would have been almost admirable in a different context. "Walk with me," I said. I took Marin south along the promenade. The morning was clear, low cloud over the shelf break, and the tethers were catching the light the way they do in early hours. Each one a bright vertical line from the water up into the sky, then vanishing into the altitude haze before emerging again as a faint thread connecting to the ring station above. Thyron Array's main fabrication spines ran along the base of the seawall, each one 300 meters tall, humming with the particular, low frequency that you stop consciously hearing after your first year on post, but that your chest cavity never quite gets. I had stopped noticing it long ago. Marin had not. I watched him register it every 20 meters or so, a slight adjustment of his posture, brief pause, a recalibration of whatever he thought he was standing next to. "The genome sequence your clients acquired," I said. "Partial base code from a pre-stellar human population." Pre-stellar means we had not yet left this solar system. It was, to be accurate, very early draft. "Our clients built an entire biotechnology civilization on its foundations," Marin said. "That establishes prior derivative." "I know what it establishes under Compact Charter," I said. "I read your filing. We have had copies of every version of that claim since the 6th renewal. We have been watching it since before your client's civilization reached its current form. He stopped walking. I stopped with him. The sequence your clients took, I said, was a single instrument in an orchestra we have been writing for 120,000 years. The genome they copied was human baseline from a specific population cohort, pre-adaptation, before 4 major extinction events that drove the human genome through pressure. Changes your client's biologists cannot model because the environmental conditions that caused them no longer exist anywhere in this region of the galaxy except here, in our records, are not available to the public. I gestured to the nearest fabrication spine. What we build now is not descended from the sequence your clients took. We went past that sequence roughly 90,000 years ago. Your client's own is a photocopy of the first chapter of a book we have since written 11 more volumes of. The derivative chain does not run from them to us. It runs from a very old, very limited version of us to them, and then from us, separately, independently, without reference to anything they ever did, onward. Marin was quiet for a long moment. The compact's legal position requires that the acquired sequence remain the foundational originating code of the claimed subject matter, I said. We have documentation, continuous, unbroken, archived, showing every generational divergence from that baseline going back to the acquisition event. We knew what was taken. We kept the record. We have always kept the record. I paused. Shh. Your clients have been filing a claim on a foundation that the subject matter outgrew before your clients had developed interstellar travel. The sound of the array was very steady around us. Up on the ring station, barely visible as a dark band crossing the upper sky, the orbital platform continued its slow circuit. Marin looked at it for a while. Our fleet, he began, is currently held within Thyran defense grid perimeter, I said. Not aggressively. They have not been fired on. They are not being fired on. But they are not free to leave until the matter of the filing is formally resolved, because an active claim against a planetary civilization's foundational biological heritage constitutes an encumbrance under galactic commerce law, and we are entitled to hold the filers in place while resolution is sought. I let that sit for a moment. We have had our legal team ready for this visit since the 43rd renewal. That was 62,000 years ago. Marin looked at me, and I want to be precise about what I saw in that moment. It was not fear, and it was not hostility. It was the expression of a being who had just understood, fully and without remainder, the distance between what he had been sent to collect and what actually existed at the address he had been given. What are your terms? He said. Withdrawal of the claim, I said. Formal renunciation, filed with the compact's own registry, signed by the executive authority of your client's government. The fleet is held in place until that document arrives. Your ships and crew will be treated with every courtesy in the meantime. Thyran hospitality is not contingent on whether we have a legal dispute. He nodded slowly. He closed the document case. We stood there for a while longer. The tethers hummed. The sea moved against the base of the wall far below us, the same sea it had always been, patient and constant and indifferent to the small transactions of history conducted above it. 120,000 years, Marin said. And I did not think he was talking to me anymore. Yes, I said anyway. He had come to collect a debt on a civilization he expected to find still, paying interest on a very old wound. What he found instead was a people who had spent every one of those intervening years building forward, keeping the record, and waiting without urgency for the moment the bill collector finally arrived at the right address. I did not feel triumphant. I felt, if I am honest, a quiet and genuine pity for the long chain of clerks who had kept that filing current across the centuries, all of them certain that somewhere out at the edge of the catalog there was a debt waiting to be paid. There was. It just ran the other direction. The compact's formal renunciation arrived in our registry 4 months later. I signed the release of the fleet on a Tuesday morning, standing at the same spot on the promenade where Marin and I had watched the tethers catch the light. Then I went back to work.